In this video, I want to discuss the common knowledge assignment, which I'm calling the when was Chaucer born assignment. And I asked you to find, I think, 4 websites that talk to you about when Geoffrey Chaucer was born. And, you know, many of you did that assignment. Now, here's a little aside, but anytime I give you an assignment, please make sure to meticulously follow all the instructions. So this carries over for every single assignment that we've done in this class. If you forget something, part of it, you will not get an A in the assignment. So for example, in this Chaucer's assignment, some of you forgot to list the URLs. And I'm sorry, I think the highest that you would get then is a B, some sort of 3. At the most, a 3.2. So make sure you do all the assignment. Now the assignment calls for looking at 4 websites that talk about Chaucer's birth and trying to assess how do they themselves explain to you why they say he was born when he was born. And you know, the people that did this assignment well looked at enough websites to understand that no one really knows when Chaucer was born. Okay, no one. We know that it was sometime between 1340 and 1345. Now there are people that like to make a certain guess. 1343 is a common year for these people. They like to think he was born in 1433, but no one knows for sure. And their evidence is not all that strong. So when you run into a site that says he was born on 1343, and you run into 3 others that say he was born from 1341 to 1345, or from 1340 to 1344, you need to question yourself, which one of these sites is wrong? Well, they can all be right. I understand that. If he was born in 1343, then obviously he was born between 1340 and 1345. But one is making more of a claim, more of stressing more accuracy, then it has the warrant to do so. The evidence is not clear. No one knows, not even professionals, about the people who dedicate their lives studying this man. A life ill spent, I think, but nevertheless, not even these quote-unquote authorities know when he was born. So, one of the ways you would not do this assignment well is to try with some confidence to say he was born in 1343. I would write back to you and say, how do you know? You know, no one really knows this. I need you to be able to assess the data that's coming at you from different channels, from different sources, and say, look, which of these sources should I now trust? And how will I make my general articulation of this? How am I going to frame this fact so that it most closely aligns to that which is really the case? So I was happy to see that many of you said, well, no one really knows. Chaucer was born from 1340 to 1345, somewhere around there. And you really cannot make the claim that he was born in 1343. The websites that make that claim don't really care about, well, I can't really say that, but let me throw out this suggestion to you. How do websites make their money? They're giving you free content because they're somehow monetizing it. And usually it's going to be through advertising. Sometimes it's through a subsidy. So they're getting their money from a university or from an organization, or they're a store. But usually the type of websites that just gives you information, usually they're going to get their money through advertising. Okay? And if you are trying to earn another flow of supplemental income, and you get this idea that offering free information on the web can help you earn some money because of the advertising, the priorities get switched. You get the website not so that you can offer the information. You get the website so that you can offer advertising. And the information is just there so people can come on. But the thing you're really concerned about is the advertising. So you don't really care too much about the data on there. And if you look at the ads for some of these sites, sometimes if it's overcrowded with ads and the ads seem to make no sense given what the content of the page is, no correlation. I mean, here's an ad on Chaucer, and then there's tanning salons and insurance agencies and Ohio lotteries and who knows what, you know, stockbroker trades on that site exists primarily for the advertising. I can almost guarantee it, and they're not going to be too careful with their data. Now, everyone likes a little bit of money to come in. So there are very credible sites that will have advertising, but they're very selective on their advertising. And the site as a whole maintains a professional demeanor to it that allows you to think of it as being a more credible source. So I would suggest to you, those of you that really latched on to a certain site that said, Chaucer was born in 1343, to go back and look at that site and see if it jives with what I'm telling you. That might be the case, all right? But anyway, no, we really don't know. So part of the assignment here was to see if you could find sources that all of a sudden seem to be giving you different takes on this, and then how would you evaluate one source above another? Now, the second thing is just what is common knowledge? And common knowledge can be defined as an historical event or an historical information or facts or numbers that have become disseminated or spread out into a knowledge group, into a people group, been made public by various sources so much such that we don't really care about, who first said it or to whom does this idea belong, because it's such a common idea, or it's a common fact, like Abraham Lincoln being our 16th president. You don't have to tag that to a source. That's common knowledge, okay? So if it's part of our cultural lore, information that the average American who goes through the current educational system of elementary school and high school, they're going to know this information. They're going to know that the World War II was ended in 1945. Okay, so you don't need to tag that to a source. However, the more specific the information gets, even though you can find it in 2 or 3 sources, you probably should tag it to a source. You should cite a source so that the audience who you can't depend upon now would know this. You're giving that audience the courtesy of saying, now this is exactly where you can go to see this in a document other than my own paper. For example, how many of you know how long the Titanic was from bow to stern? How many yards? How many tons did the Titanic weigh? When did it sink? Now you might know when it sunk, right? 1912, that's common knowledge. But how many tons did it weigh? You can find this in encyclopedias, you can find it on websites. Is it common knowledge? Probably, but you would be giving your reader a courtesy to tag it to a source because it's so specific. That it sunk in 1912, you don't need to cite that. Okay. Well, now let's go back to when do you have to cite something? Whenever you use words word for word, whenever you're quoting word for word in your paper, then no matter how common the fact is, you need to cite it to your source because you're using someone else's very words. So even if an author said, Abraham Lincoln was our 16th president and a beloved one he was, if you're quoting all that, cite it. Any quote gets cited. As far as like parenthetical citation, here's the name of the source, here's the page number, okay. But what if you found an author let's go back to Chaucer. What if you found an author that studied and actually found another manuscript or did some sort of math or found an entry in a record book at a church in England for 1344, and lo and behold, the entry book for christening, that this child was christened on this day was Geoffrey Chaucer, and the son of, and then you get the parents, and this is it, I found it, okay. Or if you made this really complicated argument that eventually, you really thought proves it was 1343. Since someone then is really has specific and dedicated work towards establishing that date, and since already the date has not been established, then you would need to cite it because this appears to be that person's particular research. Okay, so when there is a thesis, an argument, a point, or particular research that provides new information that hasn't yet reached the level of being so accepted that it's common knowledge, you would also have to cite that. So I did pick a question that would lead you to a lot of sources, and it would be general information among this group of people. So you wouldn't have to necessarily cite it. As far as he was born in 1300 to 1345, somewhere around there. Okay. But if you found someone with a very unique argument, who made a very specific case, and it's an original case, that Chaucer was born, say, in 1342, and no one else is saying that, then if you were to use that information, you would have to cite that, because that is not commonly accepted. So I hope those are some pointers between common knowledge and knowledge or information that you do have to cite. You would have to develop this. The more you do it, the more you would get a sense. And the more you see people citing information in their work, the more you would get a sense of what needs to be cited and what doesn't. I'm talking about professional, writers. But perhaps this will help. And this, I think, would go some way, this video, to explain the assignment as to why I had you do some work on Chaucer. Who is this guy? Well, it plays into what you need to cite, what you don't need to cite, and how you need to evaluate your sources, especially if they're online, giving you free information, and how, when you get information that seems to be disparate with each other, you need to make a choice as to how you are going to articulate and frame this information to be on the safe side.